I d- not only do I not know how to intro this video, I don't really even know how to talk about this at all. It's a Patreon sponsored review, and I probably shouldn't be recording it. I have a migraine, but the thing is, this is the second day I've had a migraine out of 3 days, and I'm getting too far behind on stuff, so I need to do it. And apologies if that means that the review is not as good as it could have been. But again, like, I don't actually know how to talk about this. So I had a commissioner commission me to look at the first episode of four different British soap operas, which, like, soap operas are so not my genre. And I don't, I don't know what perspective I meant to bring to this. I have nothing to compare these to except themselves. So, like, initially I thought maybe I'd do a video on each one of these four, but then I realized, like, I have nothing to talk about. I have nothing to compare it to. So I'm going to compare them to each other and take it two at a time. And I'm doing these in order of the oldest one I was asked to look at up to the newest. So we start with a look at the first episodes for Coronation Street and Emmerdale. Although at the time it began, it was Emmerdale Farms. It's no longer called that. It's still the same show. So the first thing that I can say in the case of both of these is that I feel like the phrase sleepy drama might be the most appropriate. Like, I can see where the tension is between some characters. I can see what could build into something, but it's all so low key in a way that, like, does not grab me at all. I'm sure this appeals to somebody. I mean, obviously it does. These are highly successful shows that are still running to this day. And if they didn't appeal to people, like, right off the bat, they wouldn't still be going. So obviously this appeals to somebody, either that or it is just it partially benefited from how few options there were for viewing when they debuted. But that's being mean. So Coronation Street is the older of the two. Had its first episode in 1960, and seeing black and white 1960 British TV is really weird, considering my only other touch point for that is, like, the Hartnell era of Doctor Who. I like, as it would, every time the scene would change somewhere else, I was half expecting to hear the TARDIS, the thing. That never really went away in my head. If I'm gonna compare, okay, so Coronation Street is like, it's this working class neighborhood, fictional one, I'm pretty sure, but it's this working class neighborhood, and it's just the people who live there. Like, we've got this woman who's taking over a shop. She seems to be kind of new to the area. We've got this family with a son who's been going to university, and his father's all up in his business, being all like, oh, you think you're too good for us now. I'm not going to try and do the accents. It'd be insulting. But, like, oh, you think you're too good for us now, do you? And, like, the son's a little bit stuck up, but nowhere near the degree to which his dad is getting on his ass about. And then we've got the washout who's gotten out of prison, who everyone expects the worst of. And maybe he isn't a great guy, but he's also not necessarily as bad as everyone assumes he's going to be. And, like, I'm looking at these characters and going, okay, I can see how these characters put together could, and their associated subcasts, friends, significant others, parents, siblings, whatever. Like, you put these people together, you could maybe get something, but, like, this first episode is nothing. It's nothing. Like, there's nothing happens. Nothing happens in this first episode. So it's odd. Comparing it to Emmerdale, which I think was 72, that, at least, while it has a very similar, very sleepy, very languid, if we're going to be pretentious about it, languid pace to it, it did at least open with some things that I went, okay, not only can I see where the drama is going to come from, I'm actually seeing the beginnings of it. And it's way more tangible than just like, oh, here's some family members who don't get along great. Okay. Because Emmerdale opens with a funeral. And we start with a character who it's his dad's funeral, and he shows up, but he doesn't actually go to the funeral. Like, he's watching the funeral from like a hill. So already we're getting a real sense of dynamic of, all right, he cared enough to come back, but not enough to actually go and properly, like, quote unquote, pay respects. That gives you a sense of existing tension. And then we get some more of that when we see the other members of the family talking about the fact that, as far as they were aware, he wasn't there. And we have a mother who seems to make some amount of excuses for him, even as she has to concede a whole bunch of stuff that other people point out about him. And yet, at the same time, while this guy, Jack, seems to have no real love and of this place and hasn't been back here for ages. At the same time, he's oddly defensive about it. Like when he runs into he runs into the daughter of this rich guy who just bought the place, near this farm, because he just wanted a nice view. And yet he's still, throwing around his weight in that privileged upper class way that, deeply entitled people do. But, clearly Jack has like some very firm feelings still rooted in this more rural and communal way of living, even as he doesn't seem to have a lot of actual fulfillment from being there. He's still kind of defensive about it. And you see that come out of him when he confronts, the daughter of this guy. And you kind of see where he gets that from when his mother confronts this guy directly when he shows up on her property going, yeah, so I just bought the place next door and I want to set up a road through the middle of your property to make it easier for me to get to mine. And I need you to move a bunch of farm equipment to do it. Like, piss off, buddy. Again, like, this is all very low key. It's very low stakes, but I at least see what the conflict is. Coronation Street, all I saw was like the hints of potential conflict. Cause like, yeah, I mentioned there's like this dad is kind of like butting heads with his son, but there isn't any meat on that. That's like a vague hint of a skeleton that could eventually yield some actual drama. But right now it's just like, well, here's a dynamic that could be a thing. It's not at the moment, but it could be someday. Whereas Emmerdale, at the very least, I'm like, okay, there is stuff happening. Not a lot, not anything heavy. This is still super low key, and I feel like sleepy drama is still a phrase that I am happy to use for it. But it does feel like there is a little actual meat on that bone. Whereas with Coronation Street, its first episode, there was barely a bone. There was a small calcium deposit. I'm not sure it counted as a bone. And as a bonus, we have Fraser Hines, who played Jamie in Doctor Who during the second Doctor's era. One of the best companions, definitely of the classic era, possibly of the show overall. Jamie was amazing, and I love him. He shows up in this as Jack's younger brother, Joe, if I remember correctly. I'm usually pretty bad with names, and these weren't the most memorable names in the world, but it was Fraser Hines, so I was like, oh! So, he doesn't get to do much, but just seeing him made me smile. And I'm just watching these and going, I know this appeals to somebody. I don't get it. I don't. And like maybe part of it is like, I guess some people either get a lot of reassurance seeing their lives or something that feels more reflective of their lives depicted. Like, I don't know what the TV landscape was when, say, Coronation Street came on, but like in theory, if a lot of the other dramas going on TV were more sort of the upstairs, downstairs, like here's the upper class, here's the servant class, and people who are just working class, who aren't really part of that system at all, just feel unrepresented, I could see the appeal of seeing something like Coronation Street and going, oh, that's actually kind of like our lives. Like, that for me is not enough. It's kind of along the same basis of I'll frequently say, like, look, there's plenty of queer representation out there in movies and shows, but a ton of it is in genres I just don't care about. Me being able to identify a similar queer experience is not enough to make me care about your thing if the plot otherwise would not appeal to me. So I kind of like only intellectually understand how that would appeal. And with something like Emmerdale, I guess on the one hand, it could be more appealing to a rural audience, or also in theory, an urban audience for whom the rural living, I don't want to say feels exotic, that's the wrong word, but like it's close enough to their experience that they feel like they connect to it, but it's different enough from their experience where they're like, oh, this is a little different. And maybe like I'm at this weird disadvantage. Well, obviously, like I'm not British. I didn't grow up there. I've never lived there. So obviously I can't connect to the specifics of it. But like as someone who grew up in a rural area, not on a farm, but who grew up in a rural area, but also like spent enough time in more urban, working class kind of areas or with those people, like I can identify to a certain extent both of these, but again, it in a way that's like, yeah, I kind of know how that works. Not in a way that draws me in. It just makes me go, oh yeah, I get it. More or less, I've seen that. Again, like these, I don't know how to talk about these. I just don't. It's one of the weirdest commissions I've ever gotten. And I've got another 2 to do, so I'll try and get to those at some point next month. But between the two of them, I understand the appeal of Emmerdale way more than Coronation Street, based off first episodes only. Again, I have no idea where they went. I have no idea if the tone that was set by these initial episodes was maintained. If so, for how long. I have no further context for these, and giving me further context isn't going to impact my experience of watching only the first episodes, which is what I was actually commissioned to take a look at. This has just been a weird viewing experience. But if you cared about my thoughts at all about Coronation Street and Emmerdale, there you go. What are your thoughts about either of those? If you have watched either of those, did you ever go back and try and watch the very first episode? I can't imagine there's too many people who binge all the way through these. Both of these shows at this point have over 10,000 episodes apiece. So, like, I can't imagine there's too many people who are that much completionists. Like, that's kind of the nature of soap operas. You're not really expected, especially considering you weren't able to until fairly recently. But like, you wouldn't be expected to go back and take in the old stuff. You just start watching continuously from wherever you jump in on. It's a little bit like comic books in that way, I suppose, or at least the way comic books used to be treated. I don't know if that comparison holds up. I'm going to lay back down because my head hurts. Thank you for listening. Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills. Enables me to do this as my living, even if you can't help me out that way. Like, share, subscribe. Those will help as well. Don't worry too much about it. We take a relaxed attitude around here. So just come on back next time you need a break.
And now to thank my highest supporting patrons: Robin Moore, Goddess Elida, Zubin Lafula, Jen, Welsh Wrestling Geeks, Oliver B., Melissa Pedersen, Movie Turtle, Ulrich Bogdan, Melinda Walters, Auntie Kate 808, Andre, Becky Sparks, Claire Wright, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperl, Dave Hall, Quite Bearish, Rosalind Bennett, Toku Blahuvian, Adam R.D.L. Taylor, Pal Barabajagal, Mary Mello, Mira G, and Sir Didymus is my favorite. If you want to help me ensure that I can keep these guys fed, as well as the other animals and strange creatures that sometimes occupy my house, check out the rewards on the Patreon. Yeah, hello to you too. Bless you.